Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the tearful, loving, and determined journey of Tuna, a strong single mother, and Kayet, a poor homeless but kind boy. It seemed that happiness had smiled after many storms. Their lives finally reached peaceful days. But will that peace last? When the ex-mother-in-law suddenly returns, not to reconcile, but with dark intentions to separate Tuna and her mother, once again pushing them into a spiral of tears and choices. What will Keet do to protect her and her son? Will Tuna still have enough strength to stand up and fight one more time? For her child, for love, and for herself? Can love, trust, and sacrifice help them overcome the storm? Or will everything fall apart once again? Follow me for the most details today. After the secret meeting with the man who helped Tuna, Kiet's mind was still tormented. He asked that person to collect all evidence, all traces related to his ex-mother-in-law's sinister plot to harm Tuna. In the past few days, there was a smoldering fire in his heart. Anxiety and anger intertwined, making it impossible for him to fully concentrate on his work. He knew clearly that without strong action and clear evidence, Tuna and her mother would fall into a dangerous spiral that would be difficult to escape. Today, the man returned, carrying a thick folder filled with documents, audio recordings, photos, and papers exposing the shady dealings of the former mother-in-law. They met at a small roadside cafe, where the flickering yellow light cast tense shadows across Keet's face. The man opened the files one by one, carefully explaining each detail, every clue. Keet studied the evidence, his eyes cold and sharp like steel, his heart burning with the resolve to never let Tuna and her child suffer again. After the intense exchange, Keet didn't hesitate. He decided it was time to confront the woman directly, the one weaving traps around Tuna and her child day by day. The man, once hired by the mother-in-law to sabotage Tuna, knew exactly where she lived. Keet asked him to take him there. That evening, under the heavy rain of a gloomy afternoon, Keet arrived at her home. The air was thick, as if warning of a coming storm. The large door creaked open. She stepped out, her eyes sharp and calculating, like a wolf ready to strike. Keet stood firm, his voice calm but cutting. "I'm not here to start trouble, but I need you to understand. If you continue with these dangerous schemes, it won't just be Tuna and her child who get hurt. You too will have to face the consequences. I'm warning you, stop before it's too late." She gave a mocking laugh, her voice icy with threat. "Who do you think you are, coming here to lecture me? If you don't walk away now, I'll show you what happens to those who dare meddle in my family affairs." Unfazed, Keet responded, his tone steady. "I'm not looking for a fight, but if you keep targeting them, I will do everything in my power to protect them. The evidence I hold is enough not only to expose you, but to bring you to justice. Don't let things spiral beyond control. You'll only end up hurting yourself and those you care about." She stared directly into his eyes, her voice sharp and unyielding. "Love? Family? Don't you dare preach to me about those things. If you think you can stop me, you're sorely mistaken. You have no idea what I'm willing to do to protect my pride, and what's mine." Their confrontation crackled with tension, every word heavy with hatred and determination. Keet could sense the stubbornness, the danger in her every reply. He knew then, this battle wasn't going to end with just one visit. Leaving that house, Keet walked through the light rain, each step heavy with worry. His heart ached for Tuna and her child, afraid that the sinister plans of his former mother-in-law would cause them deep harm. Yet within him still flickered a faint glimmer of hope that the woman wouldn't cross the line, that she wouldn't truly bring harm to the woman and the child he was now determined to protect. And Kiet, no matter how many obstacles stood in his way, knew one thing with certainty: he would never give up this fight. While the tense confrontations between Kiet and the mother-in-law raged like a silent war, somewhere else, at the end of a quiet alleyway, Tuna was living another seemingly ordinary day, completely unaware of the storm silently brewing around her. That morning, she woke early, fed her daughter, and gently lulled her back to sleep. Her face glowed in the soft morning light. Her eyes sparkled with a peace hard-earned, something she'd traded for with years of tears and silent endurance. Today felt a little different. There was a sense of lightness in her heart. Perhaps it was because her daughter had been unusually well-behaved. Or maybe it was the simple joy of picking out fresh vegetables and fish with her own hands. Small acts that made her feel like she truly had control over her life again. Tuna had no idea that at that very moment, Kiet was standing face to face with a woman willing to do anything to reclaim power, even if it meant destroying the fragile happiness Tuna had only just begun to grasp. That evening, when Kiet returned, the rain had just stopped. Their small, cozy home looked as if it had been washed clean by the afternoon downpour. The air was crisp and cool, but Kiet's heart felt heavier than ever. He stood at the gate for a long moment, eyes fixed on the front yard, where Tuna was holding their daughter, laughing and chatting with her gently. The sight pierced straight through him. How could he shatter this peaceful moment with such a cruel truth? Tuna looked up and saw Kiet. Her face lit up with a radiant smile. "You're home. Was work all right today?" Kiet nodded, trying to return a faint smile. It was okay, just a little tiring. She led him to sit with her on the porch, where a pot of hot tea was already waiting. They sat side by side as the soft chirping of birds echoed from the tiled roof in the fading afternoon light. Kiet looked at the two of them, Tuna and their child, and his heart twisted with a painful contradiction. Part of him wanted to tell her everything, to warn her and keep her safe, but the other part just wanted to protect this fleeting peace a little longer. For her, for their fragile little family. Tuna began telling him about a sweet customer at the market, then about an old woman who gave her a bunch of fresh herbs, saying, "This girl's smile is just too lovely." Her laughter was light, pure, carrying a warmth that scared him. He feared that if he said even a word too soon, he might extinguish that brightness forever. Kiet clenched his hands in his lap, trying to steady himself. He had intended to speak, to tell her everything about the meeting with his former mother-in-law. The threats, the schemes to take the child, and the cold hatred burning in that woman's eyes. But then, he looked at Tuna's face, so peaceful, so unburdened for once, and he knew now was not the time. He smiled softly and gently took her hand. "Today, I noticed you've been smiling more than usual." Tuna turned to look at him, her smile touched with surprise but filled with warmth, because today, "I finally feel like everything is starting to be at peace." Kiet looked away, hiding a quiet sigh. That peace He swore he would protect it at all costs, even if it meant standing alone against the storm that loomed just beyond. And in his heart, only one silent promise echoed. As long as you keep smiling, I'll carry every storm for you. From that moment on, his feelings for her grew stronger, not just from compassion or the shared pain of being abandoned, but from the love that had slowly, quietly taken root through every day they had walked beside each other.
Sáng nay, cô dậy sớm, cho con gái ăn và cho con ngủ. Khuôn mặt cô rạng rỡ dưới ánh nắng ban mai. Đôi mắt ánh lên sự bình yên lấp lánh, thứ mà bấy lâu cô đã phải đánh đổi bằng nước mắt và những tháng ngày chịu đựng. Hôm nay chẳng có gì khác lạ, ngoại trừ một điều, cô cảm thấy nhẹ nhõm hơn. Có lẽ là vì con cô hôm nay ngoan lạ thường, hay có thể là vì cảm giác được tự tay chọn từng bó rau. Con cá khiến cô ấy thấy mình đang thực sự làm chủ cuộc sống. Tử Nha không hề biết rằng cùng lúc đó Kiệt đang phải đối đầu với một người đàn bà sẵn sàng làm mọi thứ để giành lại quyền lực, thậm chí là hủy hoại hạnh phúc mong manh mà Tử Nha vừa có được. Chiều muộn, khi Kiệt trở về, trời vừa dứt cơn mưa. Căn nhà nhỏ ấm áp của họ như được gột rửa bởi màn mưa chiều. Không khí trong lành và se lạnh khiến tâm trạng Kiệt càng thêm trĩu nặng. Anh đứng trước cổng một lúc, nhìn vào khoảng sân trước, nơi Tử Nha đang bế đứa con gái ngồi nói chuyện cười vui vẻ. Hình ảnh ấy khiến trái tim Kiệt nhói lên. Làm sao anh có thể phá tan khoảnh